This is Amanda Edwards, and I'd like to welcome you to the Edwards Empowerment Talks. This podcast provides a platform to empower individuals and the community by showcasing stories of resilient people who have refused to let life's challenges prevent them from achieving their dreams. The Edwards Empowerment Talks will also highlight the work being done in the community that will help to positively shift the trajectory of this nation. Through stories of adversity, perseverance, drive, struggle, and success, the podcast will empower others to believe in their dreams and pursue those dreams despite whatever challenges may come their way. It is also a vehicle to equip the community with the tools necessary to be the change they want to see. I welcome you to tune in. You don't want to miss this. Well, hello, everyone. I'm Amanda Edwards, and I want to welcome you again to the Edwards Empowerment Talks. This time, we have a very special guest who is joining us today, who happens to be one of my favorite people. Her name is Lauren Anderson. Now, you may have heard her name not just because of the fact that she is an excellent dancer, but she's also been a trailblazer, having been one of the first African Americans to serve as a principal ballerina in the United States. She happens to have a long repertoire of work that she's done and inspiration for others to follow. And I would like to, without further ado, welcome Lauren to the show. So Lauren, thank you so much for being here today. I really am excited to have you on as one of my guests.
It's an honor. I love you, and we have done some great work together with kids and education and the community. So I'm honored to be here.
Well, thank you so much for being here. And, you have done such great work, and you also are always willing to open the door for others to follow in your footsteps, literally. And I really appreciate that. I can think about sometimes me texting you and saying, is it okay if I give your telephone number to this person who is really inspired by your work and wants to follow in your footsteps of dance. And so I thank you also, not just in terms of being here on this show, but also for being such a community presence, teaching, giving back, giving of yourself. It has not stopped. And I really appreciate you being a resource for so many people in order to make sure that others can follow in your footsteps.
Thank you. I have to say this, though.
Yes.
I look up to you because I think it was like for about a year, every school or every place I went, there you were.
We were on the same trail.
Yes. For almost a whole year, right? But,
yes.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. And it's been my pleasure. And it's been a pleasure also to watch you do the same. And so I want to learn a little bit more about little Lauren. And I don't mean it as in you are big Lauren now, but in terms of young Lauren, younger Lauren in her childhood. And back then, you didn't have any principal ballerinas to look up to that looked like you. So tell me, how did you start early on in this career and this pathway of dance, and of course all of the barriers that you ended up having to break?
Well, you don't know. I'll say this. I'm a native Houstonian.
Yes.
Okay, so I'm from Houston. I started dancing in the Houston Ballet Academy in 1972.
Okay.
Which at that time there weren't any Black principal dance. Actually, when I first got in, there were no Black dancers in the company at all.
Wow.
But I didn't know that then. Okay. I wasn't thinking that then. All I was thinking was, I'm doing this really weird thing with my feet where we have to stand like this.
So right? Where did it come from? Where did you even get inspired to become interested in ballet in the first place? Okay.
Well, I wasn't. Okay. My father was the assistant principal of high school for the performing arts. My mother taught classical ballet lessons, and she taught music in schools. So my parents knew about the arts. They were into the arts, supported the arts here in Houston. Mother took me to see performances, and she says that I saw a performance and was dancing down the steps at Jones Hall, and Dad says that he was hiring dance teachers from Houston Ballet for high school for the performing arts. And said, I have this overactive daughter. I figure I should put her in ballet. Where should she go? They said Houston Ballet. So he enrolled me my parents enrolled me at Houston Ballet.
About how old were you at that point?
7.
Okay.
Now, I also picked up the violin.
Okay.
I was good at the violin. I was not good at ballet. Didn't even like ballet when I first started it.
Really?
Yeah, I didn't even like, because it was hard. I wasn't, I didn't really, it was okay. It was okay. But then I found out, after a couple of months, I found out I had a superpower.
Okay.
I could jump higher than anybody in the class. And I loved to turn.
Okay.
So I waited for the end of class. I did whatever they wanted me to do till we get to the end of class so we could jump and turn and go across the floor and move really big to the music. That's what got me hooked.
Wow.
Then I was about 9 in 1976, Ben Stevenson came to the Houston Ballet to be a director. So I was there before Ben Stevenson. And I remember him teaching our class. And he made it fun, hard, and everything possible. He taught this thing. I couldn't do it. He made it possible. Then I could do it. So that was kind of another thing. So it became competitive. And then I have to say the thing that changed everything for me was when my mom took me to see Dance Theatre of Harlem.
Okay. And how old were you at that point?
Maybe 10 or 11.
Okay.
And I saw a black dancer go across the stage, and I went, and then I saw another one, and there was a whole stage full of people of color. So, and I didn't realize I hadn't seen a black dancer until I saw
then.
it.
Yeah, it's like you don't realize what you're missing until you see what you were missing.
And then there was a woman that did the Firebird. And I was like, I want to be her. I want to be that woman. I want to be that. I want to be her. And here we are. I have to say,
you saw
Arthur
someone
Mitchell
modeling a professional dance career who was also someone of
was
color.
the ballerina. She was the one.
Yeah.
Right. And it was bigger than life, and it was magical, and it was to watch a person physically become music is what it did for me.
That's beautiful. Yeah.
So then that's what I wanted to do.
And so did you come back to school with a renewed focus? Did you change as a dancer as a result of the inspiration?
My idea of that I could do it, that idea that I could do this happened. That moment happened. So then I kept dancing, and soon I guess I was about 12 or 13. I was going to quit dancing.
Why?
Because, well, I didn't feel like I had the body. Well, okay, let me go there. I'm gonna go there.
Please do.
I'm gonna go there. So my parents go in to find out which parents do. I'm a parent. I'm here to embarrass my child. They go into the office and they say they want to know if their investment is going to pay off. Is she going to be a dancer? Do you think? And Ben Stevenson was in the office, and they had some meeting, and he said, "Well, I don't think so. I think her niche will be Broadway. She has a good singing voice, but she should keep taking ballet. She has a good singing voice and a good personality. She should keep taking ballet because ballet is the base of all dance. She'll have an edge if she keeps taking ballet in auditions, but I don't think that she has the physique for a ballet dancer." I was devastated. I left the office. They talked. Dad comes out.
So you were there when he said that?
Yes.
Okay.
So then my dad, they talk. I leave. They talk a little more. My dad comes out. I'm like, oh, I don't want to dance anymore.
Tears streaming down your face.
Like slinging snot. It's horrible. And my dad's like, oh, no, you're going to take these classes because I've already paid for them, number one. You're going to at least go till the end of the semester. We'll revisit this for next year.
Okay.
So that's fine.
Did you sense your parents were disappointed, or did they just kind of take it in stride?
They took it in stride. I mean, if your child is not fit for this, that's fine. I mean, if she wants to do it for a hobby, great. But before we spend a whole bunch of money on these lessons, And then I was still playing the violin.
Right. Which you
So,
liked.
which I loved. And I was
Loved.
first chair for 4 or 5 years.
Okay.
I was good. I was an
Okay.
only child. I had a violin in the home. When I got bored, I practiced. You practice something, you're going to get good,
Mm-hmm.
right? Okay. So then, and I had a loved one. So then about when I turned 13, I'll never forget, the year I turned 13, we're going to do the spring show. Every kid in the Houston Ballet Academy is in the spring show. The
Okay.
spring show that year is Alice in Wonderland.
Okay.
So we're all excited about the cast list. So we run to the board to see, you have your last name up there. It said Anderson Alice. So I figured there's some other chick coming in with her last name. I mean, come on. You know what we
Right.
know about Alice?
Yeah.
Alice is the whitest of the white girls. So it
Yeah.
can't be me. Okay. So then we go down. I don't see Anderson anywhere else. Now, granted, early in the year, they just told me I
Yeah.
probably wasn't going to be a dancer. So now I am double devastated. I go into the office. Why am I the only kid not in the show? And Ben looks at me and goes, darling, you're Alice. And I went, I said to him, I said, Ben, I can't be Alice. Alice is white. And he said to me, darling, he's British, right?
Yes.
Darling, the only color in art is on a canvas. You're a dancer, and a dancer dances. And I went,
Wow.
I'm going to be Alice in Alice in Wonderland. I couldn't believe it. I couldn't
And
believe
this
it.
was the big show.
This was the spring show. So
Yeah.
in 1978 or whatever year it was, there was this African American girl from Third Ward, Houston, who played Alice in Alice in Wonderland in
Mm-hmm.
Houston Ballet Academy spring show. So
Wow.
that to me was another turning point. It's
Mm-hmm.
like, okay, so I will train here and I will ship my little self off to New York and dance at Dance Theatre of Harlem. So that was
So
my,
you saw a pathway for yourself.
I saw a pathway. It
Okay.
wasn't here,
Yeah.
and that's okay, because this
Mm-hmm.
is where I live. I got to take ballet to get there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But that was going to be my plan. Well, Ben Stevenson, same man, had a different idea.
Okay.
Um, I worked really, really hard, and uh, when I graduated from Lamar Senior High, yes, I'm a product of HISD. I
Yes.
graduated from Lamar Senior High, auditioned for the Houston Ballet, and got a contract to get into the company.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about that moment before you got the contract. So you had a plan. You were going to leave after you finished your training, and then you were going to go to New York. And
Right.
then something told you. How did you get to the point where you said, "I'm going to audition for Houston Ballet here in
Well,
Houston"?
okay. So when auditions are happening,
Mm-hmm.
they say that we should take auditions to have experience in auditioning.
Okay.
Now, by the time I went from that young 13-year-old to the 17-year-old, I really wanted to be in Houston Ballet.
Okay.
Also, Adrian Vincent James, who was the first Black guy in Houston Ballet, I'd seen him. Sandra Organ, who was the first Black woman
Mm-hmm.
hired by Houston Ballet, I'd seen her. Not thinking that they aren't going to hire a Black person. I wasn't even thinking that.
Yeah.
I was just thinking, this is not where I should be because he said no, and I need to go to
Yeah.
New York.
He said
Um,
you didn't fit the
I wasn't,
prototype. Yeah.
right. But I worked really hard, just like everybody else has to.
Mm-hmm.
I
And
can
what did
only,
that entail in terms of like hours of your time? Because you were balancing that with school.
right. So back then, we didn't have these computers where you can go to school online.
Yeah.
Um,
No remote learning, no distance
no
learning.
remote learning. You had to either graduate early, double up on your hours and graduate early
Okay.
so that you could get into a professional division, which means you could take ballet all day,
Mm-hmm.
or work really hard, double time. So I would go to school, your usual hours. I'd have like 4 hours of dance, 4 or 5 hours of
Wow.
dance, and then I had to do my homework in between all that. By the time I was in high school,
Wow.
so I graduate the next year. After I graduated at 17, the next year after I graduate, I become um, uh, where I was in the professional division. So I was taken all day.
Mm-hmm.
I worked out of class, in class, at home, balancing in the kitchen on pointe shoes, all kind of stuff, right?
Yeah.
And um, and then I auditioned And if I didn't get in, I was hoping to go to New York.
Got
Right?
it.
My dad was like, you gonna get a job or you going to college. That was my dad. He's
So
like,
they
I don't
they
know.
they were
Mm-mm.
like, no, this is not what you're getting ready to just
No,
focus on
I'm not
this.
gonna just traipse you around. Basically, I'm not gonna fly you all over the place to see if you can. You gonna either get in now or you going to college, which I totally understand.
Yeah.
I mean, I totally get it. My son is a jazz musician, right? I'm like,
Mhm.
oh, no, 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 no. You're not about to be Kyle Turner like your daddy and play. You go to college, not that, because Kyle went to college too. I mean, it's
Yeah.
not like Kyle didn't go to college, but no, the music business is hard. You're thinking
Yeah.
about your kid. You have an engineer mind. You are so good at math and science. You need to be an engineer. I can't do that.
No.
Boy, let me buy you some more sticks and some more brushes and some more drums. You do what you gotta do.
And he
I mean, I got to think about that, right?
right.
I have to let him
Be who he
forge
is.
his path and be
Right.
him. Because if that hadn't happened, we wouldn't be talking right now.
Right.
I'd be, I don't know what I'd be I don't know what I'd be doing, but I wouldn't have had the opportunity. So
You
I
have
was
to, as a
blessed.
parent, be able to support your children in being who they are, or who and what they have the potential to be.
What they have the potential to be. So that's what my parents did.
Mhm.
I auditioned for the Houston Ballet. I got in. And that's when the real work began.
Okay.
Because then I decided, okay, this is all good being this chick that's in this quarter ballet, but
Yeah.
I want to be that chick that I saw when I was 10 years old at Jones Hall in the middle of the stage in the front.
Yes.
So I did Pilates, I worked differently, I became a pescatarian, I lengthened up, because I was never that chick that just ate salads.
Mhm.
That was never me.
Did
So
you have body image issues when so after you learned that your body did not comport with what they typically are looking for, did that cause you to develop body issues, self-esteem concerns, issues surrounding those, your image?
of course,
Mhm.
I mean, of course. And it's interesting because the way we're trained, especially back then,
Mhm.
the whole thing breeds body image issues.
Yeah.
And so that's why the academy and me when I teach, etc., we work really hard at mental health and how do you not shame this child into being to having their body become this tool that you want it to become. So it's training and Pilates. So they started other kinds of training.
Mhm.
So I mean, we did Grand Modern, which got me my turnout and my strength and my core. I
Mhm.
did Pilates. So I had they had a program in place that worked very well because all I did was follow the program,
Okay.
right? And then I changed some lifestyle things. I mean, I wasn't eating Doritos all day and on barbecue. I wasn't raised barbecue. But
So you had to put that down.
I mean, yeah, I wasn't having oxtails now. Now I'm having oxtails, but back then I wasn't, right? So
Yeah.
there was just some things I had to do. And actually, for as an athlete, you find what works with your body. Because
Mhm.
I'm muscular. So it
Mhm.
wasn't that I was too this or too much. Well, I'm just really muscular. So what do you need to do to lengthen those muscles? We still
Mhm.
want the strength. We still want the quick twitch. We still want the endurance, but we want the line. So I
Mhm.
just need to look like that. Okay, I can do it. I'm gonna do whatever it takes. I can do it without wrecking myself,
Right.
and I did. And so, but I think anybody does that.
Mhm.
Simone Biles is not all of a sudden going to gain, 30 pounds of fat before she goes to the Olympics. She's going to
Yeah.
just the training does the trick,
Mhm. You just
right?
follow
If
the
you train
regimen.
properly, follow the
Mhm.
regimen. So that's what I did. I gave in.
Mhm.
I gave into the process. And
Mhm.
once I did that, there's a freedom in that regimen, right?
Mm.
Right.
Explain that.
So when you put up boundaries, there's a freedom in having boundaries,
Mhm.
right? You think, oh, I'm a free spirit. I can just blow with the wind. Well, you're all over the place.
Yeah.
There's no freedom in that. You're grabbing for control because you're all over the place.
Yeah.
But when there's boundaries, there's freedom. You can go as far as you can from this side to that side. When I've learned that in relationships, I'm 55, so I've learned that in relationships
In
and
life.
uh, in life, right?
Yeah.
Relationships like with my partner, or relationships at work, relationship with you, relationship with kids.
Mm-hmm.
And the more boundaries I had, the better it got for me,
Mm-hmm.
because I only had to work in this much space. So I just had to get really, really good in that much space. And
Yeah.
it's so much easier to
Mm-hmm.
get good in this much space than it is to get good in this much space. Right?
Right. It helps you to focus.
That's really focus. So, and I'm really competitive, and I'm obsessive compulsive.
So yeah, so it all fits kind of within your personality type too.
Yeah,
And so
yeah.
so you make it. Parents are happy. What are your parents saying at this point? Because
Okay,
again,
so
they
I
were
don't
in the
know what you're
same meeting you
calling.
were.
I don't know what you call them making it. Oh, you mean I got a job?
Yeah, you got the job. He
Oh,
says either
okay, yeah. So
you
I got a
go and
job,
you dance professionally here, or you go
and
to
I get
school.
paid,
Yeah.
and I get paid, right?
Yes.
So it's awesome. It's great. It's wonderful. Um, but the thing is, we're like football players. We have the length of of life
Mm-hmm.
professionally as like a football player. We're professional athletes.
Mm-hmm.
So your body gets beat up pretty quickly.
Yep.
The average age of retirement for ballerinas 26
And see, listen,
or
it's so for some of
29.
my 26-year-olds out there, they're just thinking about career, job,
Oh,
starting a job, and this is the end
no,
of your professional
it's it's
ballerina career,
it's possible. I mean, I danced here professionally until I was 41,
which
right?
is
But
not the traditional route.
no, but or yeah, especially right, exactly. And I guess performed a bunch of. I mean, there's a lot. There's a
Mm-hmm.
lot. Um, so then, what do you do after that?
Right.
Well, the good news is Ben Stevenson, who is a dear friend,
Mm-hmm.
by the way, way back when I was a soloist, where I just became a soloist in so I got the company in 1983.
Mm-hmm.
I became a soloist in 1987.
Mm-hmm.
And in 1990, I became the first African American principal dancer at the Houston Ballet.
Was becoming a soloist like unprecedented at that time, or
Yes. No. Okay. So it was me and Sandra Organ, and we became soloists at the same time.
okay,
And I got a story. So the moment when you become a soloist back then, when you became a soloist, you get a bio. You don't just get a picture with a group of people. You get a picture by yourself, and
yeah,
you get a bio. So you get to
gotcha,
say like who you are and where you came from and all that.
yes,
So Sandra says to me, "Oh my goodness, what am I going to put in my bio? Do you think I should put that I was the first African American female dancer in the company?" I said, "Yes, because it was supposed to be me. So you better put it in there." I was like, "Girl, you better put that in there." And then there's that whole thing in the dance world of you look black, Sandra doesn't, right? So
okay,
there was that. And
okay,
so her battle was trying to let people know she was black.
mm-hmm.
And my battle was being black and trying to fit into stuff,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
So I said, and that will help solve the problem that you've been talking about, right? Because you can see first African American ballerina I mean, it's great, it's perfect.
yeah,
And then so my goal was to get in the company.
mm-hmm.
My dream was to be a soloist. So
Okay,
now I'm a soloist. It's 1987. I'm a soloist. I'm excited. It's yay. Brown tights. I got to wear brown tights for the first time,
yeah,
um, which only Dance Theatre of Harlem was doing.
yeah.
Um,
And it's
there,
something
there was a
that,
lot.
and when you say it, it doesn't, it doesn't have the same appeal or like the same magnitude of its significance, because it really was a significant
Well, let
thing,
me help
because
you with the
before that,
significance.
everything
Let me
was,
help you.
yeah,
Pink, pink. Everybody wore
everything.
pink tights.
Yeah.
Everything. So I got to wear brown tights, not just in contemporary work, but in classical work. So it
Mm-hmm.
was kind of a big deal.
Yeah, it's
Um,
groundbreaking.
but Ben gave me a skill for when I retired. he said, one day he just comes and goes, why don't you teach in the school? No, he didn't say, why don't you? He said what he normally is. You're going to teach in the school this summer. I went, I can't teach in the school. He goes, how many ballet classes have you taken? I said, I don't know, millions. He goes, great. You're going to teach in the school this summer. You'll be fine. I was like, okay. Because, I just did whatever.
Yeah.
And I did. And I'm so happy that I did. Because I can say I've been teaching since 1987.
Wow.
I've been giving classes. I don't think I got really good. It takes about 10 years to get good at anything, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it probably by the late 90s, I got good at teaching. And now I'm a master teacher because I stopped dancing.
Yeah.
So I stopped dancing in class. I stopped performing for people in class. I stopped doing it for me selfishly. It's about the student.
Yeah.
Right. So, and that's one thing I love almost as much as performing.
It's teaching.
Actually, at this point, I love it more than performing because I couldn't imagine performing because it hurts. Ballet hurts.
Yes, I'm going to ask you about how does it really feel? Because, I mean, I've seen images of people's feet and how beat up they become because of their years of being a dancer. And so it's torture a little bit.
Feet. My feet don't look like feet, girl. I wear some cute shoes.
You were like, they look like feet once I put them in shoes.
Yeah, I mean, your feet are.
You have to contort them and put all that, put weight on them, jump on them.
Pounds of pressure.
Yeah.
Pounds of pressure.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you, so I got to teach, and so it's something I love to do.
So you were teaching and then aspiring for more in your professional dance career at the same time. And so you become the soloist, you get your paragraph, you get your headshot, right? And then what did you do? You moved the you moved the goalpost again.
No, hold on. What had happened was I had the opportunity to do some roles, right? I did the Sugar Plum Fairy, which is what I wanted to do since I was 7 years old, my second year in the company. So that's fine. And I did that, and I did that for 20 years. I've done that forever. Okay. But I got to do some other roles. I got to do Sleeping Beauty, and a couple of one-shot deals on a Sunday, And then he says, I'm going to take you to the International Ballet Competition. He goes, don't worry about winning a medal or anything. You're going for the experience.
Okay.
I'm like, okay. And you're going to go as a soloist. And I went, because if you go as a partner, when you partner with someone, you do 4 pieces. As a soloist, you do 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 pieces, and it's really hard, right?
Okay.
And generally, you don't win anything if you're a soloist. Doesn't matter. Okay.
Okay.
Then all of us, we go on tour, we come back, and then he comes into one of my rehearsals for the competition. And he says, oh, by the way, we're going to make you a principal dancer next year.
By the way?
BTW. Hold on, like a text.
Sound
BTW.
like by the way type of message.
Exactly. And then he walks out. Now I'm like.
So he has fun with you.
And he knows me really well by this point because he's known me since I was 11.
Yes.
And by this point, it's 1990, so I'm 25. Whatever. So I go to the competition. I'm just dancing. I'm not competing. I am just dancing and having a ball because I'm about to be a principal dancer in the Houston Ballet.
Yeah.
Not the first black
So you didn't have to.
I'm just gonna be her.
So tell me a little bit about that process and how it typically works versus how it worked in your case. Do you audition to become a principal dancer, or they just decide who becomes principal based on your body of work?
Okay, I say no. No. They just decide. You're constantly auditioning for the next thing, but you're not in a formal audition. They decide because of your work or your work ethic and you're this and you're that and whatever, who gets promoted. People get promoted, and I say this, and I hope no one thinks that I take it lightly, but I was just happy to be a principal dancer. I wasn't thinking I'm the first black principal. I wasn't thinking I'm the first anything. All I'm thinking is, I can't believe I'm a principal dancer. Right? And it's not until I retired that I even understood the magnitude of it.
And so how did that experience change your view of your career trajectory, and how did you view yourself? Like, I guess when you're in these spaces and places, you do your best and you always try to do your best, but was it more pressure on you? What was that experience like? Did you have setbacks as a principal? I mean, tell me a little bit more about what was happening in your mind and some of the
Well, it's
experiences
hard.
you were having.
It's hard. Um, it was amazing. I'm going
Mm-hmm.
to say that I had an amazing career, but it was hard just with behind the scenes, with
Mm-hmm.
other dancers, with your self talk. Am I good enough? Do I even deserve this? How did I get here? But the thing about it is, after I rehearse and prepare, I'm prepared, so I go on stage. I don't think that. But it's all that time in between the
Yeah.
performances, that next big role that I have to do. It took about a good 4 years of being a principal dancer before I even believed I was worthy.
So did you have, sometimes people talk about something called imposter syndrome, and they don't, when they get elevated to the next level, they always have this nagging sense that they're not worthy for that elevation, even though obviously they wouldn't be there if they weren't. People from the outside can see it, but that person or individual who's in that experience has a lot of self-doubt that creeps in. Did you have that in that in between performances periods?
I'd say definitely the first 4 years or so. You
Yeah.
know, the interesting thing about it is once I cross, okay, so like when you go on stage as a black leg
Mm-hmm.
and you cross a black leg and then you're on stage, you come back on this side of the black leg and you're backstage.
Mm-hmm.
Backstage, before the show, I'm like, all that crazy stuff. But once I cross the leg,
You were together,
girl, I'm
confident,
representing. I'm representing.
because
I'm
you love the
representing.
performance, right?
I love the performance. And I don't, and as a principal dancer, you feel, well, I actually can't say you, I felt like the, I had to represent the company. I felt like
Yeah.
I had, you
You were the
know,
leader.
yeah. So I'm responsible for how this is going to go. I'm not just representing me. And as I got older and did more talks and taught more classes, I'm representing a whole lot of other people.
Mm-hmm.
I'm representing Houston. I'm representing my community. I'm representing Black people. I'm representing my family. I mean, I'm representing the Houston Ballet, but I'm representing a lot more. It's so much bigger than me.
Yeah. And you
It's so
feel
much
the
bigger than me.
enormity of that experience with that new role that you stepped into. Even though it was a lot of work before that, it became something bigger than yourself.
Different work. It became different work. So then I realized how to work that way, right?
Mm-hmm.
Put that enormity into all my rehearsals,
Mm-hmm.
into talking to the press, into walking out the door, you're on.
Mm-hmm.
Don't let anybody see you sweat. Don't let anybody see, it's always, you're on. So then that's tiring, but I get it. And that's where I put myself probably the last 10 years of my career.
So tell me, okay, so with that responsibility that you felt, tell me about the pride you felt. Were your parents, were they, present in that experience with you? How did that go in terms of how you related that experience? Because they were with you from the beginning, right? They're the ones that said, I have my
Right.
overactive child that needs to be put into dance class.
Well, and my parents are in Houston. They're still in Houston, and yes, they're still alive, and everything's great. So they came to every show.
Oh,
I mean, um, they're always supportive. They're still supportive. And I think, every kid wants to make their parents proud.
mm-hmm.
Here's a kid, you don't hear how proud we are of you or they are of you. And I try to remember to tell my son I'm proud of him, not just, honey, pick up your clothes, honey, go wash your hands, honey. You didn't see that hang on the floor. You just stepped up. I mean, you just remember to tell them how proud you are. So, and as an adult, I found out how proud my parents are of me.
Yeah. So it was like now they could relax and just smile and say, job well done, or that's my daughter. Or,
Yeah.
or
I mean,
just,
but see, the thing is, with being a daughter, you're always a daughter. So they're
yeah,
still telling you how to, how
you
to
know,
do stuff.
even stuff
And
they
that's
don't know
okay.
what they're talking about.
Look, they my mom and daddy.
Yes.
And they say, well, I told you so, and I told you this when you were 25, and now you're 55. Hopefully, it's not too late. That type of stuff. I'm getting that now, but I'm proud of you, baby. But I'm proud of you, right? So,
Yes. And so let me ask this question. What was the attention that cuz you were one of the first in the country. What was the attention that had been generated, and were you feeling little girls look at you, especially little girls of color, and say, I really can do that, despite the fact that what I typically see around me isn't people of color in principal roles with the ballet.
well, I can tell you this, definitely in Houston, for sure. And what's funny is I didn't know. Okay, first of all, we didn't have this back
Yeah,
then. You had to have somebody come to the ballet, report on it, go to work the next day, write it out, and that took a
yeah,
couple of weeks. Then put it in the thing, which took another couple of weeks, and then another month to print it, and then 2 months
yeah,
later, after I did whatever I did, somebody else saw it. So it's a little different now.
yeah.
Number one,
No cell phones, no instant replays. It
it's
was because they
yeah,
weren't. It's not like it's going to be on NBC prime time. If you
right,
didn't go to the performance, or you're not someone who was following, or there wasn't a magazine or a newspaper covering it.
right. And
Yeah.
I was I mean, it was in Houston. I was um, people knew, right? But
Mm-hmm.
then my parents are from here, and they went to Texas Southern, and they don't know everybody, and one's an AKA, and one's a Kappa, and one does this, and one does that. So there's service and community and all that.
Mm-hmm.
I just didn't know that I knew every Black person in the dance community. I just didn't know they knew me, right?
Right.
Until after I retired, and we ended up teaching together or
Mm-hmm.
getting together, or Dance Theatre of Harlem had this Black ballerina event 4 years ago or 3 years ago, and we all got together. We knew each other. We've seen each other. We haven't necessarily talked to each other, but we knew who each other was,
Mm-hmm.
and that was amazing.
Yeah.
I don't know who. I'm always surprised when somebody knows who I am, unless like I'm saying when I
So you
leave
see,
Houston.
you're seeing my facial expression. I don't
I
know
know. I'm
why.
like, wait a minute, wait a minute. When I leave Houston, because I'm either Mr.
Right.
Anderson's daughter, Miss Doris's daughter, Loris's daughter. I mean,
And so
but
much
when I
of your
leave
experience is concentrating
here,
on your craft and your performance here, or
right,
in your city, as opposed
right,
to you. It's not like you're a basketball player who plays
goes
games
to
in every
different city.
city
That's
every
right,
week, and you can judge by the response in one city versus the next.
right, exactly. But
Mm-hmm.
it is,
Yeah.
and I didn't know this. So every time we toured, or when I teach another
Mm-hmm.
place, or when I just didn't know. I mean, the dance world's pretty small. The dance world is pretty small. So, I mean, that's really neat. And then now with Black History Month projects and programs and whatever, it's interesting when I hear somebody that's in Ohio teaching dance saying, "Oh, well, we just did a whole chapter on you for Black History Month in my dance class."
And you're like, what? You're teaching about me?
Her? Right.
What? Tell me how
So,
that happened.
so yeah. So, dance has given me a lot. It's given me a lot. It's given me a career. It's given me a career after career. I get to teach.
Yes.
I love to teach. It's nothing like seeing the light bulb come on
So did
in a
you? So
child.
let's talk about that, because I feel like we often kind of hear about what was life like after XYZ sport, and you highlighted that most professional ballerinas, their careers end in their 20s. I mean, you were an exception to that, but generally speaking, it's a short career, and
20s,
it's a lot
30s,
of
yeah.
work and a
Yeah.
lot of wear and tear, and so
Yeah.
people often feel lost. You found your new path while you were pursuing your dream and found a new dream as a result of that. So that you kind of transition naturally into the teaching role. So did you not have some insecurity about what's life like after being the professional dancer, or you already knew what life was going to be like because you were doing it at the same time?
I had no idea what it was going to be like. I had a lot of anxiety about it.
Okay.
I thought, great, I can teach, but what happens if something happens to me and I can't teach? I've got a son. So I went to college. I enrolled in HCC. I did distance learning. I learned on this computer while going to work all day, and then pick up my son, taking him to school, and I went into medical office because I thought, okay, I can have Anderson billing and coding, and I can fit in if I have to. So I have a backup plan, but that didn't happen. What happened is learning about social and emotional learning in dance and how it's needed in public schools. I got the opportunity to do what I was doing on my days off. So on my days off, I'd go and teach in public schools and speak in public schools and do appearances and go all over the place. And I've been doing that since 1983 because they're like, oh, she's a Black dancer. Let's get her to come and, Black History Month, career days. I've been doing that. So Stanton Welch, who's now the director of the Houston Ballet, said, you have this thing, this bridge to the community that I don't see from anybody else. What if, when you retire, you come and help us with our educational community engagement department? We need someone to do this full time that can bridge us to the community. We need to strengthen this. What do you think about this? And I went, well, that sounds right up my alley. Well, I got to the office and I opened the computer and went, oh, what do I do with this thing?
Yeah.
So I took some business courses, and the business courses ended up going, that's how I stayed in college. And then I learned curriculum and what the teachers and how to get buy-in with the teachers and the principals of taking the time to come in and even do this in their schools. And then I started talking to city council members. And then how do I get into infiltrate what is your neediest neighborhood?
Yeah.
Where is it 75% or more economically disadvantaged? Now, yes, did I go to Kincaid and St. John's? Absolutely. Did I go to HCVA? Absolutely. Meyerland, all that. But I'm also in Acres Homes, and then so now I'm kind of like I'm going I'm going more in that route because that's where it's needed, right?
Right.
The arts is there's so many things you can get from it. It's not just a plie and a tendu.
Right.
Right. There's so much more to it. Right. So then, how do we get that with math, science, and English, and our English second language people and our ELA subjects so I get to do that now, and I love it.
And so, what are the new challenges that you're facing as you're embarking upon bridging this educational opportunity and with some of our under-resourced areas? What are some of the biggest challenges you face besides for convincing people that this is important, correct? Right? Because people are saying, oh, well, you got to pass this test, that test. We don't have time for new or different or additional. We just got to get the basics down. How do you get in there and convince them, number one, and number two, what are some of the challenges you face? Okay,
so one thing that's helped me get in there is that I'm Lauren Anderson with the Houston Ballet.
There you go.
That helps.
Doesn't hurt.
Doesn't hurt. But now that I've been doing this for 13, 14 years, they've seen the difference in their students, especially when we've been on campus more than once. Also, there's, I guess, I've got a lot of support of our city council members, and they put it in all of their newsletters and stuff, and I get to go into meetings when things are being developed. I'm on the board of Arts Connect. I'm on the board of Houston Arts Alliance. I've gotten on the boards of these things that fit Texas Culture Trust. And then I also have figured out what it is. So it's just like when I had to figure out, you need to take this body and make this body look like that. Yeah. So the TEA, Texas Educators Association, I think is what it is, it has all these teaks that they want that these kids have to cover, okay? So they got to cover these teats. How can I make these teats and dance squish together? So
Mm-hmm.
that's where we are with that. Arts
Yeah.
integration. So
Yeah.
that's how I'm getting in with the principals. That's,
Excellent.
I mean, so, but not only that, what are my challenges? The challenges is this. I don't have enough hours of the day to do all the things I want to do. That's
Yes.
my biggest challenge.
Yes.
Um, uh, Raising money, of course, but I found out I'm good at begging for money. I couldn't believe it.
Well, it's always so funny too, because people are always so scared about fundraising, and it's like, well, you're not asking for money for your
I'm
shopping
not saying,
spree.
can
You're
you write
asking it
me a
for,
check?
yeah, it's not your to pay your mortgage. You're asking
No,
for the benefit
no,
of these children and
that's
these
right.
students and this
So guess
mission
what I
that's bigger
do?
than you.
Oh, and it's easy. I go, "Huh? No, I'm gonna give you all the secret. I'm gonna give you the secret.
Okay, give us the
Transparency.
tips.
Transparency. It's so funny. I say, hi, I know I never call you unless I'm asking for money. So this is what it is. This is
So
the
break the
why.
ice.
This is the what. Right. This is the what. This is the why. And this is how much. Right.
And
Great.
then,
We're done with that. So how you doing? And then we start talking about vacations or
yeah,
kids
you get to the
or
business.
I mean, it's just I really don't. I don't. Um, I don't like to bother people, but if I know that it's an interest of yours, if we've talked, if I say, look, I'm going to call you about some fundraising I'm doing for some kids.
Yeah,
I
right.
mean, why even go like, well, but that's not me. And if
No,
you know me, I don't even do that well
just
unless
get
I'm
to
on
the point.
stage. I'm on stage, I can go and give you all that, but just
so
it's
let
not
me
even me.
So let me ask this question. So how are you handling teaching? And we talked a little bit about this. So I'm cheating by asking you this question with a little bit of an understanding of what you're going to say. But are you handling teaching dance in a time where we're having to do everything virtually? How do you do that?
You want to know how I do it?
Yes.
Hold on.
We didn't even
Hold
set
on.
this up.
Hold
Yes.
on. That
So
is my
there's a
ballet.
stage.
There's my ballet bar and my dance studio.
I love
And I
it.
go over here and I teach ballet. That's what
I
I do.
love it. I love it. And is it more challenging for you in terms of providing critique? Like like usually like in a traditional setting, you could just go and say lift your leg up like this and show them, by pointing or touching or whatever you do. In this case, you're kind of trying to look to see the right angles and see if
Hold
they
on.
got it right?
Y'all are gonna laugh. Y'all gonna laugh. This is what my poor kids see when I teach on Zoom. Oh, so I got a bigger screen. I haven't you have to make this home office into a home studio. So I have a bigger screen where I put them up on a bigger screen. But I'll tell you, it's making me a better teacher. I have to describe. I have to say, okay, stand on your left leg now. How do I have to find a way to get them
As
to
opposed to just watch me.
yeah. And the Zoom, I call this Zoom arms. I need you to expand bigger than your room. And I mean, I
Yeah.
get to use different imagery,
Yeah.
right? The problem is the delay, with the music and all that. But you can tell when the kids are chasing the music and not quite on top of it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the beauty is we're getting back. We're all masking up. We're marking the studios with big 6 foot by 6 foot squares, making a teacher island. So the Houston Ballet is working with Methodists on
Mm-hmm.
protocols of getting back into the studio.
So that everybody feels safe and can be safe
Right.
is
And we have to
where.
have smaller classes. We have to do hybrid. It's just like the school.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a big learning thing. I'm really technically savvy. I can do Skype, Zoom, Teams, WebEx, whatever, however you want it, right?
Yeah.
I mean, so I mean, it's it's a challenge, but I'm telling you, kids still want to move. Kids still need to
Yeah.
move.
And they need to.
They need to move. Yeah.
Yeah. And let me ask this question. You have such a wealth of experiences that, for people who are out there and are trying to navigate waters that maybe someone else hasn't blazed in front, or a trail that someone else hasn't blazed in front of them. What advice do you have for people to pursue their dreams, even if there isn't someone before them or someone who looks like them before them? How do you keep people, what tricks and advice and tips do you have to keep people motivated? And then also the next question would be, how do you encourage people to keep dreaming? So even in your case, you had, not only did you become that soloist, again, you became the principal of the company, but yet you said you have a whole next round that involved teaching. And so I'm curious to kind of hear your advice for people, because I think people are always looking to successful people and people who have achieved a lot to hear their wisdom and their advice.
Well, I mean, I don't have anything special. I always say I never say anything original. I don't have anything that somebody hadn't probably already said.
Okay.
But I will say this. One thing I've learned is I can't be anybody else.
Right.
I just can't. No matter how hard I try, I couldn't be anybody else. I tried it. I'm sure for 4 or 5 months I tried to be like Martha or like Janet or like Shamika or whoever. I tried, but it didn't. Just do you. Because what makes you special is you. There's nobody like you. Even if you have a twin, your twin isn't like you.
Yeah.
Right? So that's the thing. And everyone goes, be authentic, be authentic. What's authentic? Authentic is already you. You don't need to try.
Yeah.
You're already authentic because it's different than anybody else. And that tell the truth.
Okay.
I hate to say it, but all you have is your word.
Yes.
Be true. Now, I'm not saying you got to go and just hurt people's feelings. You don't just go out there and hurt people's feelings.
Now, don't tell that kind of truth. Be kind with your truth. Be
true. Like, as a performer, the audience doesn't believe you unless you tell them the truth. Now, have I really been, say, like Cinderella or whoever? No, but I can put myself in that place and be truthful with that feeling, whatever that is. Mm-hmm. But I think the one thing I think that's best as a performer, especially, is to be yourself. Mm-hmm. Now, if you have a dream, whatever it is that you really want to be, and a dream doesn't have to be like this great, big, no.
So they can't, then it's not necessary that you have to say, I want to be the next Lauren Anderson.
No, you want to be the next you, number one.
Right.
Right. But if you want to do something that I've done or something that someone has done, do all the research you can, take as many classes as you can, be prepared, read up, know the history.
Say that one more time, because I don't think we focus on that enough.
The history. Don't try to erase the history. Know the history. Mm-hmm. So that if it's bad history, don't get repeated.
Yeah.
But know the history. Know where it comes from. Have an idea, because evolution's going to happen.
Right.
Evolution's going to happen. There's some things you can't stop. Right. I always say it's going to be God's way or God's way.
Right.
Right. All that said, that's all I got to say.
No, and I think those are extremely great pearls of wisdom, and especially I think with the history piece, because I just think so much of that is people just start from their thoughts or their wants of now and where they want to go. But again, you got to know where you came from, where it came from, so you can understand how you fit and your dream fits, and all those things can fit into the context of that experience, because everything is in context. And I think sometimes we miss that, and you see that easily play out when you look at things like, the context of the history of the Black community. And if you don't know that history, then you have no idea why somebody might have the response that they have. Right.
That's right.
That's right. But it is applicable in so many realms. Yeah.
That's right there. So, and the cool thing is this, is once you know the history and once you do the research, they didn't go wherever you feel needs to go, because evolution and innovation and all that came from somewhere. It did come from somewhere, and it did come from now, because you're going forward from now. But it's good to know what was happening back here, so
Yeah.
you can push that along.
And
It's
you
so
know the
funny.
lens through which some people might be seeing you, right? You don't you because there's a
That's
history
true.
associated with it.
That's absolutely true. That's absolutely true. So it's so funny. Like my son hears some music, and okay. And I'm not saying they're not making good music now. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is,
That's another podcast
how much,
now.
look, how much old music they use.
Yes,
That's
I
all I'm
do.
saying. Okay, great. And that's fine, because music has evolved.
That's right.
Music absolutely has evolved. And he said, "Oh, Mama, when so and so did that?" I said, "Baby, Smokey Robinson did that a long time ago, sweetheart. So and so sang that long time ago."
Yes,
You
that's
know,
the third sample.
exactly, exactly.
So no, this is not new. Not new. Well, this was a lot of fun, Lauren, and I just thank you again. I want to keep thanking you for the work that you have done, continue to do, and will do, because I know that you will always continue to reinvent opportunities in ways in which you can impact people and then bring them along, which I love about you in terms of just your focus on that. You were focused on that when you were dancing, professionally, and you were focused on that. You're focused on that today, and I just really applaud you for that. And that's some of the work that may not necessarily always make the headlines, but it's such important work, because you are preparing a whole new generation of people to become themselves. I won't say the next Lauren Anderson. I'm going to say become themselves in all of the glory that they and potential that they possess. And so I really appreciate that. And for those that are curious about you and what you're doing and what you're up to, is there any place you would advise them to go to find out more information about you and your whereabouts?
Well, I do have a website.
All right.
I forget about that
This
sometimes.
is commercial time, so I'll let
No,
everybody just.
I think it's. I'm gonna tell you. Hold on. I think it's laurenandersonofficial.com.
Okay. So
I
y'all heard
think that's
that.
what it is. Lauren Anderson Official.
You can
www.
ask your son. He probably, yeah, just say, what is it
What is it?
now?
Yeah, it's laurenandersonofficial.com.
Excellent. Excellent. Well, thank you so much, Lauren. And you've done such a tremendous job. And I really enjoyed talking to you on our podcast. And for those
This
of
was
you who are
great.
interested on the podcast, make sure you tune in next time. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
I would like to extend a special thank you to the Texas Signal for its support of our podcast.